Hey everyone, do people love to send you money? How are your wealth affirmations turning out? Do you need the positive mindset and the skill set and the right action plan? Well, that's going to be what I'm going to discuss today with Chellie Campbell. She is the author of The Wealthy Spirit. She has financial stress reduction workshops, and she's been doing this for a while. I love her positive attitude. I can't wait to talk to her, and you're going to love her too. Okay, so here's Chellie Campbell. And Chellie, I did do a little introduction for you. I mentioned the Wealthy Spirit and I mentioned your financial stress reduction workshop. So those are the main things that, I mean, I know you're known for other best-selling books too, Zero to Zillionaire and
The Wealthy Spirit book and From Worry to Wealthy, which is especially
oh
for
yeah.
women.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting,
But the
interesting.
main thing I do now is the Wealthy Spirit group.
Yeah, good, good. And the Wealthy Spirit Group, you know, what I love about you is that you're very strong in wealth affirmations, but you don't stop there. You take it into action. And we'll talk a little bit more about the action steps that you really promote. But I want to just share my favorite quote from you. I remember one time you said, "Hey, Natalie, there's two types of people in the world." I'll let you finish it.
There's two kinds of people, your people and, and not your people. You said for a while, I said your people and other people, but it's funnier if you say not your people. I just
Exactly.
laugh. And since I had my first career was in musical comedy, I'm looking for the laugh all the time. And I think that's one of the things that sets me apart from most financial advisors or financial coaches is that I try and lighten it up, make it simple and fun at the same time.
I think that's so important. I mean, and again, it goes back to your financial stress reduction. I mean, when people think about money, they get stressed out. Like a lot of times, what I do is after my a day long retreat, whether we're doing it online or in person, I'll say, okay, your job now is to go have fun because I want you to sprinkle endorphins on that beautiful work that we did today, right? So you start associating money with fun instead of money with stress, you know?
Exactly. That's why affirmations are so important because you have to have positive thoughts about it. The
Yeah.
way I've been phrasing it lately, this is pretty new, but do you know who Mike Dooley is? Notes from the
No.
Universe. Okay, well, I am in a group of his, and at one point he says, well, thinking positive and doing affirmations is just like clicking on a video on TikTok. You're setting the algorithm. So there's like the algorithm of life, there's the algorithm of money. And if you're thinking positive thoughts about money and then setting that up to take positive actions about money, then it's going to rollick along because the universe is just going to go focus. Oh, she's clicking on happy thoughts. She's clicking on positive experiences with money. And it just makes
Exactly.
so much sense, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And also, I loved another thing that you would say is listen to the yay sayers, not the naysayers. We have, and I want you to, expand on this a little bit more, but we have the capacity to focus on the yay sayers and not to let the naysayers suck our, energy from us. We can say, okay, great, and if it's something that maybe we could improve on, sure, but there's a lot of us that are not such bad people to begin with. You know what I mean?
Well,
And can that stranger really improve you, or should you just kind of let it go?
they're if they're not your people, they're not going to love you no matter what you do. And if they are your people, they're going to love you no matter what you do. So the thing is, you have to give up all the naysayers, all the people that criticize you, that don't like you, that think you're bad or wrong or awful. Who cares about that? 8 billion people on the planet. How many do you really need? You know, I had this conversation with a woman once, and she was saying, well, it's easy for you. You live in Los Angeles, there's 10 million people there. And I said, yeah, there's a lot of people here. I said, how many are in your city? She said 450,000. And I said, how many clients do you need every year? And she goes, well, 20. I said, well, 20 goes into 450,000 a whole lot of years. I don't think you're going to run out. And if
Yeah.
somebody doesn't like you, it's really fine. That's just the universe saying, okay, this is not the person for you. Go find somebody else. So I always tell people, go look at my books on Amazon. Go look at The Wealthy Spirit. And there's lots of really nice reviews. But go to the 1-star reviews and read those. One said, she is a troll. Her stuff is useless. Okay. I remember one of the best compliments I got was at a networking group, actually. And
Right.
I was talking with these people, and this woman said, oh, Chellie is just so much fun to be around, and she's a good person. I said, thank you. And this man standing there said, yeah, if you ever meet somebody who doesn't like Chellie Campbell, run.
Oh, how funny. Oh, well, we love this guy. All right, Chellie. Well, I'm going to say, okay, so when I'm thinking about your 6 steps, when you're talking about get your mind right, and then, of course, without losing your mind, the first one is think positive, and we really delved into that already. What is number 2?
Number 2 is send out ships. And I use this euphemism I saw a movie from 1939 starring Tyrone Power, and it was called Lloyd's of London. And it was about the start of the insurance company in the 1800s. And what they did was they insured the merchants' ships, that they would spend a lot of money and time building it, provisioning it, hiring a crew, and then sending it out to go trade in foreign ports for gold and jewels and silks and spices and whatever cargo.
Right,
And then
right,
hopefully one day they'd come sailing back into London Harbor, all laden with all this treasure. And on that day, the merchant's fortune was made. And that's where the expression, waiting for my ship to come in, comes from. But some people are going down to the dock, waiting for their ship to come in, but they didn't send any out. So you have to
interesting.
send them out, right? So what's people go, well, what's a ship for me? I said, well, a ship for me is like being on this podcast, being on this Zoom, giving a speech at the Church of Religious Science, or giving a speech at LaTip or Rotary Club or any of those places. That's a big ship. I can meet a lot of people. Some of those
Right,
people might buy my book or come to my class. So it's
right.
always like reaching out.
Exactly. So you aren't just exactly. I mean, and let's relate this because that's really important. Let's say if you have something to sell, but what about if you're somebody that's between jobs and you're looking, you really prefer to work in a specific environment and thinking also not just send out ships, but that you want to land a job, your next one to be with your people, not one that stresses you out, but with your people. Any ideas there?
Sure, it's the same thing. In order to get a new job, you have to send out an application. You have to do some research about what jobs are available. You have to tell all your friends you're looking for a job and this is the kind of job you want. Read some books on how to do job search. And then every time you get an interview, that's a secondary ship, right? Now you're going on the interview. How can you do the interview the best way possible? Research the company so you can answer intelligent questions about what the company is up to and how you can fit into their arena and do things that help them. My father taught me years ago. One of the things I remember him telling me that after college, When you go
Yeah,
to get a job, he said, I want you to know the man behind the desk, and of course it was a man then, the man
right.
behind the desk is going to have one thought in his head, and that's, how are you going to make me money? Now, I thought about that, and it's really true because that's why people hire people. Bottom line, they want you to do a job. It might not have anything to do with sales, but they
Right.
want you to contribute to the bottom line of the organization. You're going to save them money, you're going to help them produce the product they sell or whatever it is.
Exactly. Now,
Yeah.
that leads us to number 3, which is count your money. Now, I always start my day with one mantra. Look, I have my business is built around service and information and education and adding a splash of green to Wall Street, transforming lives on Main Street and systems to do that, right? So
Yeah.
there's a boatload of research involved. But guess what I start my day with? Do what makes money first. I always make sure that the first thing that I do for at least the first hour or 2 is to send out some ships and make sure that the business is going to continue to be viable. Now, I know that's number 3 on yours. So what do you want to say more about this?
Well, the thing about counting your money, it's like you have to look at how much are you charging. Either if you're in a job, what is the salary expectation you have, and how are you going to spend that money? So that's a budget. But I make it happy. Budget, people go, like it's math and it's hard. No, it's counting your money. And so budget stands for baby, you deserve getting everything. Okay, maybe not all today. So you kind of want to set your sights. Okay, what's the next rung up the ladder? What if you're in business, maybe instead of 10 clients, you have 20, and then maybe you have 50. So you keep looking, well, how much money is that? You have a goal budget. A lot of people never do a goal budget. They do a budget for right now, or what if
Yeah,
disaster strikes, but they're not looking at, well, what if my dreams come true? How am I going to spend all that money that I get?
perfect. We actually play the billionaire game in a royal manor house. So our team is really focused on this. We're in direct alignment there, Chellie. Okay, so let's say without losing your mind, and I love this that you've got laughter and fun threaded throughout. And I love this next one, swim with the dolphins. What do you mean by that?
This is my favorite thing. And I have to tell a story on myself, which was um, first I was a musical comedy actress, and then I took secretarial jobs in between acting jobs because I still needed to pay the rent and eat. So one of these jobs said, we'd like you to go full-time permanent. And I said, I can't do that. I'm an actress. I have to go on. And they said, okay, well, you can go. We'll pay you by the hour for the hour that you work. And when you needed to go for an audition, you can go. That was a dream job for an actor because usually you had to pretend to be,
Yeah.
you know, I
Uh-huh.
so I took it, but 5 months later, their office manager quit and they promoted me up into that job. I said, but that's money. I don't have anything to do with that. I don't know anything about that. They said, we'll teach you to learn. And I went, okay, cuz I have a friend who says, when I'm about to take a risk, I consider the downside. If it's not death, I do it. So if I wasn't going to die, and maybe I'd be terrible at it, but maybe I would like it. And that was the biggest discovery of my life was I loved it. I had so
Interesting.
much fun with it, and I had a responsibility, and I was making good money. And I said, yes, this is terrific. So I quit acting and I started doing this. But at one point, I thought, maybe I'll go back and try seeing if there's a job on the other side of the camera. I have a degree in drama from UC Santa Barbara. Maybe I'd like to produce or direct or any of those. So I got a job working for a producer, two producers, Edgar Sherrick and Scott Rudin. And if you look up Scott Rudin, Google search him, he was booted out of show business 2 years ago, basically, because he was the most angry, awful, abusive boss imaginable. He
Oh
once
boy.
fired 250 assistants in 1 year. Usually they
Wow.
went off to Starbucks and waited for him to call him back, but he would throw things and he was
Oh
just,
my.
now he wasn't that vicious when I worked for him, but he could yell at people. He and his boss, Edgar, were screamer yellers to beat the band. So I worked there for a while and I saw, if this is what show business is, I don't want any part of it. Thank you. What I really liked was, that financial job, and I want one of those again. And I started thinking, I read a book called Swim with the Sharks Without Getting Eaten Alive.
Right.
And right? And it had
Right.
some really good tools. But at the end of it, I thought, yeah, but why swim with sharks if you could swim with dolphins? Why don't I just
Exactly.
dolphins? So I had that analogy going for a while, and I kept meeting people who weren't dolphins, but they weren't sharks either.
Right.
Well, who are these people? They were the tuna, the
Oh
food
no.
sharks. The tuna who were clueless, who were maybe angry at life and complaining about everything, but never took any positive action to change it, never took any personal responsibility for what was going on, that they
Right.
were responsible, that they were setting the universal life algorithm to bitter and twisted.
Right.
So so I came up with that, and now I just look at it. Everybody is a shark, a dolphin, or a tuna. And I admit to people that I am a tuna in recovery. I had my day. I mean, I worked for these angry, yelling people for 2 years. No self-respecting dolphin would work for them more than a day. But I had learning and growing to do in my life. So that was one thing.
Oh, I love and thank you for being honest about that because you know what? We don't get here without a few stumbles along the way. You just have to stumble forward. It's called growth, right? But I remember seeing something like if you aren't making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough. Your goals aren't big enough. Like if you don't stumble along the path, if you're not growing, what are you doing?
And you're not going to be good at everything first time out of the box. People decide, oh, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to write a bestseller, and they forget that there's a lot of learning to do. I went to class first thing. There was Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield were doing a 3-day weekend on how to build your speaking and writing empire. And one of the
Right.
women who was in my financial stress reduction class said, oh, look at this seminar I'm going to do this weekend. And I went, what? I'm going to go with you to that. And it was really fun. But, there's all kinds of things you have to learn: how to get an agent, how to write a query letter, how to write a book proposal, how to,
Yeah.
get blurbs from famous people, which didn't come until my third book. Oh, but let me give a tip to anybody who thinks about writing a book or anything like that. What happened when my first book, The Wealthy Spirit, came out, which I wrote as a page a day for every day of the year, because I wanted people to get some happy input about money and some good tools to use and an affirmation to use every day.
Right.
So I was working with that, and I thought, oh, everybody's going to love this, but I got rejected a lot because not everybody loved that. And the first time, yeah, what? This is golden, can't you tell? Well, there were a lot of editors in the publishing industry who were not interested. They thought nobody wants to read these little stories about money every day. Well, that's
Right.
what they said to Jack Canfield too about Chicken Soup for the Soul. Nobody wants to read these little stories. So I kind of
Right.
thought I was on the thing. But it was so valuable to go and learn these kinds of things. And what everybody needs to know is it doesn't matter how many books there are, or how many people have competition, you can still make a splash with your people, okay? With your people. And so a lot of people, when the book came out, started writing me emails. So who read my book? The people that I met in 10 years, 12 years of networking by then, right? So they would write me, oh, I'm loving your book and it's doing this. So I started saving all these emails. Then when it came time for the second book, see, here's a magic piece. My editor called me up like 2 years after the book was released and said, okay, we're ready for your next book. And I said, you are? Yeah. I was looking at Susie Orman, who sold 2 million books, I'm thinking I was a failure. And I said, I didn't sell that many books. And she goes, oh, Chellie, you don't know. I said, no, what? She said, the average book in America sells 500 copies.
Oh my. I didn't
Yeah,
know it was so low.
it's even less now because there's about 3 million books a year that are
Right,
published.
right, right, right.
So 500? She said, yes, we think the magic number is 10,000. If you sell
Yeah,
10,000 books, we've made money and we want you to do it again. You've sold 12,000 books. So what would you like to write next? I
perfect.
had no idea. So that's one of the things. So when it's come time for my second book, I still have no famous people interested in me writing a blurb. But I had all these emails.
Right.
And so I put together 2 pages of these emails and said, how about instead of famous people, we just do international acclaim from readers of The Wealthy Spirit? And they said, yeah, good idea. So my books now have all of these affirmations. I have 300 pages of these emails now. And I'll tell you, anytime I feel sad or bad or things aren't working, or, oh, why didn't I get further in my life? And all these mistakes I made, I just go read some of those emails. And I
Well,
see that people got help.
oh, and yes, and having that positive attitude, having more fun in life, I mean, that's a reward in and of itself. But I wanted to talk about this because I think everybody has to learn this next thing that you put on your list, and that is surviving the storms.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter, like we see it over and over again. One year somebody can have a best-selling film and the next year have the flop film, or so how do you focus and keep improving and survive the storms? Do you have any quick tips? I mean, you have so many good euphemisms. I'm sure you have something for this.
Well, I have a lot of failure stories, and this is one of the things that I tell people. If you're not winning enough, it's because you're not failing enough. Like you were saying, you have to take risks in order to learn something new or reach somebody new or do a new project. And not all of them are going to work out because you haven't done it before. So you have to get good at the failure along the way to getting published. I had a deal with Harper San Francisco. Parent company is HarperCollins. Big
Yeah.
name. I was so over the moon with this because they had a series of books, 365 Goddess, 365 Tao. They had books that were page-a-day books. So mine was going to be 365 money. I told everybody. I had that deal for 4 days.
Oh
And then,
no.
yeah. And then my agent called me and she said, Chellie, I'm so sorry. Harper San Francisco canceled the deal. And I went, why? She said, the parent company, HarperCollins in New York, just signed another woman to do a page-a-day book about money.
Oh no.
That's just one of the worst tragedies of my life. I was, and didn't turn out that way, but at the time, this was the worst possible news in life. I cried. I went to bed. I pulled up the electric blanket, turned it up to mother, and just was so sad for myself. And then I woke up the next morning and I said, well, whoever this woman is, she can't write my book. My book is my stories. And now she's just proven that somebody can do a page a day book about money and get published. So that should make it easier for me to go get another publisher. There are 6,000 publishers out there, and I'm going to get one. So that's the bounce back effect. My mother taught me that as playing the glad game. All right.
Okay.
So this is how that went. We'd come home from school with our little personal tragedy. The boy we liked didn't invite us out. We didn't get
Right.
asked to prom. We lost the election for cheerleader. We didn't get the part in the school play we wanted. We come home crying, and mom would go, oh, poor thing, for about 30 seconds. And then she'd say, well, let's play the glad game. We didn't want to play the glad game. We wanted to roll in the mud and get, oh, poor thing, it's not your fault, and life is terrible, and it's a
Right.
tragedy. Well, let's play the glad game. She got this from the movie Pollyanna,
Okay.
1956 film with, I forget her name, but it was Haley Mills.
Okay.
And what this girl kept, Pollyanna kept getting all kinds of tragedies, and she would just look on the bright side. Well, at least I still have pretty hair, or at least I still. So what we did with mom is we go, well, I still got an A on the history test, and I did get a part in the play, and there were people who didn't even get a part, so I guess I'm lucky there. And Susie's still my best friend, and then we would just lighten our mood.
Right.
And that became a lifelong habit. And I really recommend it. I mean, I'm still alive. I still live in this world where there's Zoom and beautiful people to show up and talk to me. And gee, life is good no matter what bad happened.
You
So
know,
that's what I
uh,
recommend.
it's so funny because when that we have these analogies that are kind of matching up with one another, because I always say the same thing. Look, if you land in a mud puddle, are you going to sit in it and then sling some more mud at yourself, or are you going to get up and wash yourself off and take a shower and get on new clothes and move forward, right? Like, which one do you want to do? But it's funny how we both have the mud puddle as our.
I know, right? Well, I just learned, you're not going to win every time you try something new, and sometimes you're going to fall on your face. And a lot of times the universe
Yeah.
is looking out for you, because
And
if you
yes.
get back in that day, let's see, this was like 2000, 1999 or 2000. There wasn't social media then. Weren't easy ways to promote a book. So what they did was they would publish a book, put it in a bunch of bookstores for 3 months. And if it didn't sell a certain number, they
Yeah.
destroyed all the remaining copies and it went out of print.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So that was different. Now your book never goes out of print. It's still available on all the online stuff. So I guess Amazon must have 10, 20, who knows how many millions of books they have there. Well, mine is still
Yep.
clicking along, still selling books. It came out in 2002, actually.
I want to kind of segue into seek balance and enlightenment, but I want to share a little bit of my story because I think that it also talks a little bit about surviving the storms and getting up out of the mud puddle and taking risks. So
Yeah.
one of the early things I think, and we both understand this, once you are clearly on your path, and you're in alignment with what your path is, there are all kinds of magic, and swimming with the dolphins, all kinds of magic can show up for you, right? And I saw it with a clip from Oprah, and I so believe this. So she's like, "Look, in your prayers or your meditation, whatever you want to call it,
You
don't
froze for a minute
tell."
there, Natalie.
Yeah, I think it's your on
Okay,
your
now
end.
you're
You
back.
keep freezing. Yeah, I think it's on your end, love. You keep freezing. So,
Oh, okay,
oh.
thanks.
Um, so anyway, what Oprah would say is that, instead of telling God exactly what you should be doing and giving him a long list of things that he should be or she should be doing for you or in your
Mhm.
meditation, open yourself up and say, what should I be doing? What is it that I am
Right.
best at, in our meditation? So when we talk about seeking balance and enlightenment, I just want to say that for me, that has been a game changer. There's no way that I could have designed the life that I'm living. My life is designed by
Yeah,
me trying as best as I can to meet the pathway that seems to just ever open for me. You know what I mean? So let's talk a little bit about seek balance. And well, I promised that I would share a hard time. And I think that the way that this thing started for me was that I was actually working for an insurance company. And same thing, I was only in rock and roll. You
mhm,
were in, acting. I was in rock and roll. So I was a singer-songwriter, and I, during the day, did data entry.
uh,
And, I kept getting
uh,
promoted, so eventually I was a customer service rep for this corporation that sold health insurance to corporations, so big ones. And it was in the, early '80s when
yeah,
AIDS was a big deal. And what was happening is if somebody came down with AIDS, their corporate health insurance could double or triple, right, on one person getting diagnosed. And so you were not
yeah,
supposed to tell who the person was to the employer. But what some of the salespeople would do is they would take off the names and leave the social security numbers and send over the claims to the employer. And so they were doing something that was illegal, but but everybody was turning a blind eye. And I didn't, I just, I like every day talk about swimming with the sharks, right? Like I felt like this is
yeah.
immoral, this is horrible. And I didn't know what the heck I was gonna do, but I was not gonna work for that company. And I actually had to go and sleep on a girlfriend's couch for a little while so I could figure out what was gonna be the next way of earning income. Being a singer-songwriter, you don't make a lot of money doing that. But I think that that choice was really important for my enlightenment. In that I said at
Yes.
that moment, kind of like whatever it was that was the final straw that said, "I'm not working for these 2 a-hole producers. I'm not working for a company where
Exactly.
everybody turns a blind eye and breaks the law and ruins people's
Yeah,
lives." You know what I mean?
yeah, I
So
do. I know
so
exactly.
so
So
how does
the
when
survive
you're
the
talking about
storms part
enlightenment,
and
yeah.
the seek balance and enlightenment sort of go together sometimes. Because what I tell people is sometimes I'll give you an example. A boyfriend years ago, back in the 70s, and I had tickets to see Berezhnikov, the famous uh, Russian ballet dancer. And we were so excited. We had the tickets for months. And finally, we go to the show, and there's the fateful announcement before the curtain. We're sorry, we regret to inform you that Mr. Berezhnikov was hurt at rehearsals, so he will not be
Mm.
performing tonight.
Oh, no. Oh,
And
no.
the wail that went up because he was the it boy of the time, and everybody was there to see him. And everybody was angry and mad and everything. And my boyfriend was very conscious. And I turned to him and I said, "So, what did we do wrong that we created this?" And he looked at me and said, "Chellie, we didn't create this. We're put here to help everybody else get past it." And that made
Mm.
so much sense to me. And so now what I tell people is when your ship is sinking and you're thrown on the deck, sometimes it's not about you. You're thrown
Oh
on the deck
boy.
to save another sailor from drowning. And that has made so much sense to me. I'll look around and go, how did I get myself in these circumstances? Well, I'm there to be one of the pieces of light that helps everybody get out of it.
Yeah.
So if you hold it that way, if you go, oh God, this feels terrible. Well, these other people are feeling terrible too. How can I
Yeah.
help?
Right.
Mhm.
Right. And what I find, which is really interesting, is that the universe sometimes doesn't want us to be wherever it is that we are. They have a better plan. They may even have a better plan for
Better
us, right?
plan.
And
Exactly.
every single time that I have, for whatever reason, had to exit a situation, whether it was my choice or, not my people saying, we don't like you or whatever,
Mhm.
every time it has always been for something so much better, no matter how much it hurt at the time.
Yes.
So, I would just say, that I really encourage people to check out Chellie. She's at Chellie.com. She has financial stress reduction workshops. I think they work really well, especially if you're in small business for yourself or you want to write a book.
Yes.
Of course, there's many other ways that it can be very helpful for you. Her wealthy spirit groups, join and become one of her dolphins. But Chellie, what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and
Mhm.
then we'll take a few questions.
Perfect. You guys, you tell me.
Chellie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Natalie. It's so good to talk to you again. We're so in the same wavelength.
We can finish one another's sentences. It's very funny. Well,
It is.
thank you, thank you, thank you. And guys, remember, you can always watch this back at youtube.com/Natalie Pace. Again, youtube.com/Natalie Pace. Just as a reminder, if you want to visit Chellie, go to Chellie.com. Of course, if you want to join us for our upcoming retreats, visit nataliepace.com. We've got a Royal Manor House retreat. You got to register by August 15th. And we've got an online financial freedom retreat. If you want the best price, you got to register by July 31st. You can always reach us at info@nataliepace.com and 310-430-2397. Thank you again.